Welcome back to the Talking Realty podcast, where we help home sellers save time, save money, and avoid headaches. I'm your host, Glen Whitten, realtor and founder of the Ohio Property Group, where we sell homes for a low flat fee instead of a giant commission. We've sold nearly 3,000 homes in Ohio, and you can check us out, see how we work, pick up any of our free home seller tools, and see all of our podcast episodes right at home at talkingrealty.com. Taysia is in the studio with me today. Now, she's been with us since 2020 and a realtor since 2021. She's been on before, and she has handled hundreds of deals. She currently runs our marketing, including our podcast, our social media, and website, along with about a dozen other things. Well, one of her unofficial duties is as the company therapist. We used to call her HR, but she didn't care for that title. Did you now?
No, I did not care for that title.
But one of my favorite things to do is to call her up after something happens and I just rant about it. So she got the bright idea that maybe we should just hit the record button before I do that. So I've got some rants built up, several rants built up for you, Taysia. I've been saving them. And so anyway, so here we are. We're in the studio. Instead of a call, we're just going to get my rant out of there today. But before I do, how you doing today?
Good. It's warm here finally, so I'm good.
That's nice. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. It's warm here too. So
it's always warm there.
So we are, as of this recording, we're in spring, and that generally means offers are a-flying. So each year, some new candidate rises to the top as far as things that we see a lot of. It's kind of a repeating cycle. Every few years, these things come around. During COVID, we saw a lot of crazy stuff, and then since then, it seems like each season, something else pops up. Well, this year, it seems to be the no remedy clause, which is an old favorite. And we get these quite regularly. And so the other version is something called inspections are for buyer information only. So, so Taysia, you've seen these before. You know what I'm talking about, and you know why it drives me crazy, right?
Yeah, I was saying, I know what direction your rant is going in, is that they're not real and they're totally fake and they're the worst. Well, they're all the worst, but they are also... So they're just very confusing and kind of misleading.
Yeah. And the worst part is that most sellers think they're legit. They think that, so we're in the middle of a sticky deal right now because of one of these clauses where the buyer wrote it in there. And I had explained to the seller that, hey, they said it, but they didn't mean it. And to make it worse, the seller had advertised the property as being sold as is. So now we've got the double whammy where the seller thinks, okay, I'm off the hook because I put as is in my marketing. And then they put this little gem in the contract that says, we're only doing inspections for information. We won't ask for anything. But it did not go to plan. So I don't want to, give any spoilers away because I'll get to them here. But there are a number of versions of this, correct? Like we see. So we've got the old no remedy, which I've just talked about, which is right. That's what they want you to think, or that buyers are, they're only going to do inspections, but we're not going to ask for anything, right? Another favorite is the old walkthrough, right? We're just just going to do a walkthrough. Like it's no big deal. It's nothing. Don't even pay no attention to me. And then, but they're not going to do any inspections, correct? Like that's how we hear it.
Yeah, and that one comes a lot from like investor companies. We see that one a lot. Oh, we'll just do a walkthrough, no inspections. Like this is your offer price, and then lo and behold, the walkthrough leads to a renegotiation. So that's the part they don't tell you in front.
No. So the point of all this is that no matter what the agent tells you, particularly if it's not in the contract, because a lot of times this shows up and it's in the email that comes with it, or it's in a phone conversation or a text message. Don't worry about the inspections. Because buyer agents, they don't want sellers to get nervous. And the problem with that is the sellers are thinking, okay, well, that's okay. I can give away my bottom dollar because they're not going to do inspections. Like I'm not going to have to come back around after inspections and give away even more money. This is all baloney, every bit of it. So I guess there is a time when it's real, right?
There is. Well, okay, so I would say I'm an example. I bought my house without inspections in the height of COVID, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, but it worked out for me. And we talked to Glenn before we put the offer in, and we're like, we looked at the house. But at this point, we'd literally looked at probably 80 houses, had 1 or 2 inspections on other houses that we'd looked at and whatever. So we looked at the house and felt comfortable proceeding without inspections, and we knew they were in multiple. So we're like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make this offer as easy as possible in hopes that they pick ours, right? That's what a lot of buyers think when they're putting this in. The difference was Glenn hates the no remedy clause because it's fake. And he said, if you're really not going to do inspections, then you have to waive the whole thing. And that's what you don't see a lot. You'll see buyers write no remedy, or you'll see buyers write like inspections for knowledge only. But there's a clause in Columbus. It's like 6.4b, because I always look for it, because it is it essentially almost nullifies this idea of like no remedy, because what it says is after the inspections are done, even if there's no remedy period, like even if they put NA on it, the buyer can keep it or walk away. So it's an escape clause, which you're thinking is like, that's reasonable. Well, we waived that whole section to buy our house and didn't have any inspections, not even for our own knowledge, because what you don't realize as a seller when you're reading this is the knowledge changes things. Like even if the buyer goes in with the best of intentions to not ask for remedy or to not walk away after inspections, like the knowledge almost always changes things for them, because the inspector's job is literally to unearth everything. Like you might not even know there's a problem, but now everybody might know there's a problem.
Well, and also during COVID, things were different, a little bit different than they are today, because offers were coming in like landslide offers. And so if you were trying to compete against, this is not an unreasonable number, say 20 other offers in the first day or two, then there's no reason why you shouldn't go all in. Like if you're gambling anyway, because you're going to either overpay for the house or you're not going to get everything you want in a market like that as a buyer. That's just, it's just not feasible, because someone else will always go just a little bit crazier than you do. And so our game plan was to go the craziest. That's what we wanted to do.
Well, our game plan was, we don't have crazy amounts of money to spend on a house, but we can waive inspections and we can let the seller have, like, they got like a whole month of free possession after we closed. And we can do all this other stuff that thankfully appealed to them more than just like crazy amounts of monies that we didn't have.
So one of my favorite phrases is that if it's not a good deal for everybody, then it's not a good deal. Well, we kind of knew some stuff about the seller. And so a lot of the stuff was designed not just for any seller, but for this particular seller, like the 30 days of possession. Now, here we are 6 years in. How we doing? Did it work out?
It's been 4 years. Because we actually had to search. We started searching in 2020. It took us almost a full 2 years to buy a house because that market was insane, and we didn't have just thousands of extra dollars laying around, but throw at houses.
Okay.
But yes, it's great. Nothing major came out of it. And fun fact to buyers and or sellers listening out there, like you can get an inspection after you close on the house. So if you really want your buyer to, if they're waiving remedy, if you really want to try to persuade them to waive their inspections for knowledge only, why can't they just obtain that knowledge after closing? Throw that out there. That's what I did.
Yeah, because the reality is that they're not really doing it for their own information. I mean, they are doing it for their information, but they're doing it to make sure they're not buying a lemon, they're making sure they're not buying a money pit. And so if they contractually have a way to get out of it or to renegotiate, they're going to do it. Because as you said, that knowledge changes things. It really does. Knowing what you hope that you go in and the inspector comes back and goes, oh, everything's great. I'm not even going to give you a report because everything is so great. Well, that never happens because you're paying somebody to find problems. Yeah. They may feel compelled to find some problems. So that's typically what happens. Most of our inspection reports run 30 to 60 pages. So, and 99% of it is just hooey. It's just slow. Make sure you change the light bulbs, stuff like that. I'm sure it's meant to provide the perception of value.
Yeah.
Like I paid hundreds of dollars for this and all I got back was a note saying everything is fine. I think so. And no disrespect to my home inspectors out there, but yeah.
No, I mean, you want a thorough home inspector, but it also has to be paired with correctly managed buyer expectations. Like you said, if you're buying, like I bought my house, it's 100 years old. So I knew like there's going to be some problems. Some things are a little out of date. I knew like the windows were already 20 years old. I knew the water heater was already 20 years old. Like I knew the breaker box had a little bit of corrosion, would need replaced. Like we knew these things and went into it knowing like that's not a deal breaker for us. It's different if a buyer goes into a 100-year-old house and is like expecting something from the 1990s that doesn't have half the problems. So yeah, buyer expectations and inspector thoroughness. Like it's not necessarily the inspector's fault for doing their job, but it doesn't help if you've got kind of a freaked out buyer already.
Yeah, and if they're in a bidding war, odds are their emotions are going to get carried away and they're going to overpay for the house, which means there's going to be a hangover. Like it or not, there's going to be somewhat of a buyer's remorse hangover. Well, unfortunately, the timing of those inspections is kind of at the bottom of the pit of despair when it comes to the hangover. And so it's just like the worst thing ever.
It's
so
the worst timing for a seller.
Awful. It's awful for a seller because the love is kind of fading. And now all of a sudden they're taking a closer look at this thing that they probably just overpaid for. So the stage is set for a bit of a nightmare. A couple of things happen that the buyers end up wanting to get some of that money back. And the way they do that is to get you to reduce the price or fix a bunch of stuff that they were going to have to fix anyway. And even though they're saying, hey, we're not going to ask for anything, they're going to ask. They're going to ask because the alternative is to walk away. Like that's it. That's their only other go-to. And you as a seller, take my as-is guy for a minute here. He was pounding on the table about as-is. All of a sudden we get back to the inspection report and he's like, well, okay, maybe. Because he doesn't want to start over either. Nobody wants to start over. And the cool thing is if the buyer wants out of the deal, it ain't that hard to get out. It's just, I won't give away all of our secrets here, but it is really not that difficult to get out of a contract as a buyer, especially this early. So we already know they don't want out because if they wanted out, they'd have gotten out.
Yeah, right? They can just basically send you a form and be like, bye, over, like Glenn said, there's a ton of reasons in the beginning. So if they don't do that, if they send you a list or a price reduction or a list and a credit or whatever, then they also don't want to leave. So that opens the door for a negotiation, almost like you're back in the offer stage, I would say.
Hey folks, almost every seller I know has at least a few questions about the process, which is why we offer a totally free, no obligation, one-on-one strategy call for anyone with a property to sell in Ohio. On that call, we're going to help you plan your listing launch. We're going to nail down your price. We're going to make sure you're ready for offers and inspections and appraisals and hopefully help you get a bidding war off the ground. Check the show notes, the YouTube comments, or just head over to talkingrealty.com and book your free call right now. Seriously, hit pause, go do it now, and I'll talk to you soon. Let's get you on the right track. All right, back to the show.
So as a seller, what ends up happening is, we tell these sellers, look, I get that the buyer is saying all this, but they're saying one thing and they're doing something else on paper. Because on paper, that clause is still in there. It's still there, which means it's completely in effect no matter what they say. And it's very, very frustrating. If it isn't written, it isn't real. If it is written, it is real. It's right there in the contract that says they can renegotiate. Even if it says, sometimes they'll put 0 days for remedy. Okay, well, what they're telling you is, in effect, when you see, because there's always multiple parts to this. There's the inspection clause itself that says, here are the inspections we're going to do. Here's how long we get to do them. We call that the inspection period. All right. Easy enough to follow along. Once the inspection period is over, if they've waived remedy, they're supposed to just say yes or no. And that is almost never what happens. Okay. The uncool thing is we get to the end of it and the seller is fully expecting, if they don't hear anything, usually within minutes after the inspection, because the sellers know when it is, they're just like, oh, I guess everything's fine. And then here we get this little bomb later that day, the next day, sometimes the next day, depending on how slow everything is, because the inspector has to go back and type up this 60 pages of stuff and then send it, and then somebody has to read it all. And that's usually, that's when the bottom falls out.
Yeah.
So instead of getting this nice little piece of paper that says we're waiving inspections and moving forward, we get a list. The thing about that list is you can't unknow it. Once you see it, it's there and there's nothing you can do about it. And that inspector may have found something that the seller didn't know about. Well, we own it now. So going back to the beginning of this, if we were really going to go as is, and this is what we told the seller, is if you're really pushing for as is, tell them no. Just say
no inspections at all.
No inspections. No walkthroughs. No coming to measure with your contractor. No, we just want to figure out where to put our furniture. Don't fall for it. All right. If there's no inspections, that means no inspections. None. Bringing your friend who's a contractor over to measure, that's an inspection. Or it could at
This
least.
is actually a good time to talk about our rule, which is let the buyers in the house as little as possible.
Yeah.
Just like as a quick aside, Glenn and I talk often about the love dying as soon as the offer is signed, slowly in little bitty tiny deaths, depending on how many hurdles you cross. The love between the buyer and the home and the buyer and the seller die naturally because it is a big purchase and this is just human nature. So even if they have an inspection, even if you've agreed to let them have an inspection, we've had buyers want to come back. Can I just come back and show my parents? And also, can I come back and show my siblings? And also, can I come back and take measurements? And also, can I come back and have this fence guy look at laying the fence? You do you. You do you. But our advice is keep them out of the house as much as possible because it's like every time they're back in that house, you are taking a gamble of, are they going to see themselves in it even more and love it even more and renew the love? Or are they going to be like, ooh, I didn't notice that the paint is like chipped everywhere on every cabinet in the kitchen. Like, and our recommendation is not to risk that.
We had one a little while back. I don't know if I told you about this one where it was one of those deals where somebody, the kids or the aunts and uncles or somebody wanted to see the house. Well, the house was vacant. So after we got it under contract, the seller went in and shut off a bunch of stuff, turned off the gas to the fireplace, turned off the gas to the stove, the water heater, just basically like, I'm not even spending money on pilot light money. I'm just not doing it. We kept the heat on, minimum, but he basically winterized that house because he knew he wasn't going to be there very much and he didn't want to have to worry about it. And so the buyer sets up one of these, we just want to show my blah, blah, blah. And then we get back this tirade from the buyer's agent saying, the hot water doesn't work and blah, blah, blah. And we got this long list, basically like a post-inspection, even though we had no inspections. So we got over it, but the seller had to go back out, turn all that stuff on, get it all running again to prove that it still worked. Now, he wasn't planning to do any of that until right before the final walkthrough. We were weeks away from that. So the seller was really irritated. What do you do as a seller, Taysia? What do you do? The buyer is all excited and they want to get in. What are you supposed to do when they ask?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a tough one, but you basically, here's my favorite new thing that I've learned recently. So you just say no without explanation.
I'm sorry, is that what's been happening to us here? When I ask you for stuff, you just say no.
But what I've learned recently, as I've just hit my 32nd birthday, I have learned that if you just say no and you don't give a reason, like you don't justify it, there is a very, very small percentage of people who would follow up with why not. And so really, you could cut out like 80% of your problems if you just say no. And honestly, just say, if they ask why, just say, I'm not comfortable with that. Done. What are they going to do? They can't change that. And legally, it's still your home.
Yeah. The other thing we like to piggyback onto that is you can see it as right after closing.
Right after closing. Now I throw the agents a lot more because they like to push back more than regular buyer will. And so, yeah, we just reiterate, hey, the house is all theirs when the fund transfers and they can see it and show it to whoever they want and take as many measurements as they want till 2 a.m.
And that's a lot of times how I'll answer depending on the agent and depending on how they ask. I might even answer that way. They'll say, hey, can we get in to do measurements? And I'll say, absolutely, right after closing. Ha ha. Little smiley face.
Depends on who you're dealing with.
Depends on the agent. Yeah. Yeah. If we're already been to World War III with that agent, that's probably not going to fly.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say every retail buyer is out here being this sneaky. I wouldn't say that's on average. I would say we get that more from like our professional buyers are like quote unquote sneaky about this. Like they walk through with their buddy who is a contractor. But you also don't know your buyer's dad builds houses for a living. Now he's walking through the house, pointing out every little thing he would have done differently, So the point that we're trying to make is if you really want a no inspection deal or a no remedy deal or whatever, it needs to be a no inspections at all. Not for your knowledge, but no remedy. Yeah, just no inspections.
So when sellers are on board with this idea, I literally go through the contract and I put red lines through the entire. If there's 100 lines, I put 100 red lines through and then make them initial it. And that way it is painfully obvious to everyone who's reading that contract. There are no inspections, period. And if they're going to say no remedy, then we will absolutely type it out. But I'm telling you, there is no such thing as no remedy.
Nope.
There is no such thing. Hear me now. Because what is your choice? Just like my as is guy, right? You're going to let him walk away and not ask? Well, wait, what happened? Well, I mean, we said we wouldn't ask. So the fact is, if you're gonna go with this whole no remedy, that's fine as a go ahead and take it. I guess that's my advice. If you're gonna let it happen, then let it happen and don't argue. Just wait until they then come back later and ask for stuff, and then you can remind them. It's a little bit of negotiating leverage, not a lot, unfortunately, but it's a little bit to say, wait a minute, I thought we had a no remedy deal. Okay, well, whatever. Let's talk. But if you are selling as is, sell as is. You can do a couple different things. You can have my favorite, I'll bet you can guess, maybe you can't. My favorite is a pre-sale home inspection. You want to knock out the inspection clause entirely? Just pay for one and get it done yourself. Pay for it, get it done, have it available. You can include a statement that says, here's all the stuff I addressed or didn't address. And if you didn't address it, be smart. Get somebody to give you a quote to fix it. Answer all the questions. Just answer all the questions. We did a whole episode on as is, so I won't drag you down that alley today. But it's not that hard. So if you're not going to do a pre-sale home inspection or you're already on the market, fine. When you are marketing this thing, you make it very plain. This is an as-is sale, meaning we will not entertain any offers with an inspection or walkthrough clause. And stick to your guns.
Home sellers, this episode of Talking Realty is brought to you by our friends at Associates Title. This team is shaking things up by focusing on what truly matters, putting you, the customer, first. Whether you're buying or selling or investing, whether you're for sale by owner, whether you're working with a realtor, doesn't matter. They've got your back with incredible cost savings and the latest technology to streamline the process. Their secure online portal keeps everyone in the loop, from buyers and sellers to lenders to agents, all while keeping your data safe and communication crystal clear. If you're getting ready to make a move, don't underestimate the importance of having a great title company in your corner. Check them out today at associatestitleinc.com or call my friend Ryan Phillips at 614-419-2418. Remember, they're not just in Ohio. They're in a lot of states. So give them a call, but do not leave your title company choice to chance. And definitely don't let the buyer or their agent make that choice for you. All right? Back to the show.
Let's say you go down that road and you try this whole hardcore approach and you're not getting where you need to be. Maybe you've got some urgency. Maybe you need to move or you whatever. Okay, so you might not have the luxury that this guy has of being able to let that thing sit.
Well,
so if you don't, it's okay to at least entertain the offers. But if you end up negotiating down to your true bottom line and you can't go any lower, all I ask is that you be straight. Just say, hey, look, we're going to take this offer, but I'm going to stick a line in that just says, everybody understands, all parties acknowledge is the fancy way we say that. Everybody understands there will be zero renegotiation between now and closing. Just throw it out there. In other words, the buyer, every time they come to a fork in the road, the buyer has two options: keep going or get out. No, oh man, we got it. The appraisal came in late. Keep going or get out. Take your pick.
And that line is for you, sellers, because
Correct.
a buyer will still try to come in and renegotiate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the you miss 100% of shots you don't take. The buyer's implementing that exact idea. They're like, well, I know they said they have no room, but if we don't try, we'll never know. That line is for you to refer back to. It's to give you the backbone of these negotiations. It's actually really, it's nice to have, because these can get kind of tense sometimes. But if you have that line that you can refer to, that everyone initialed or signed to agree to, then you can just restate that line when they throw you their inspection thing. And if they were truly just shooting their shot to see, they'll probably move forward. And if it was a deal breaker, they won't, but you couldn't go anywhere anyways. So it's not like you lost out.
The other thing is that when you as a seller stick that line in there, you still have an ace up your sleeve, because if you get something from the buyer that says, hey, we're out, just ask them why. If you want to know. If you don't want to know, then don't ask and just sign the piece of paper and everybody moves on. But if you're curious, or there's a certain amount of pain involved, and maybe not having this close, maybe you made some commitments based on the fact that this was supposed to close in a week. Okay, might be a good time to open negotiations. You're allowed to do that. Just like the buyers can shoot their shot, you can shoot your shot. Say, well, wait a minute, time out. Before I sign this, what happened? Well,
I
I thought you
remember
didn't
having
want
this
to. Yeah.
happen with a
Mhm.
seller before, yeah, and it turned out to be but so she was basically rock bottom, exactly what you're describing. It was kind of an investment slip, and she wasn't selling, and she needed to sell, she needed the cash flow, and so she took basically a rock bottom offer. The buyers were gonna walk away after inspections, and it ended up being, like, 2 of the smallest they were just following the rules set in the contract, which
That's
was,
exactly right.
don't ask for anything, but these 2 small things were enough they were big enough for the buyer, but the seller, having had, like, a team of contractors and whatever at her disposal, being an investor, um, was able to, like she's like, "Oh, I can fix that basically at no cost to myself."
Yep.
So, it worked out.
We just had an as-is close last month that was pretty firm as is, and it was a contractor selling it, and there was an issue with the roof. Well, it turns out the roof was under warranty. So probably the biggest difference in terms of negotiating, we talk about informal versus formal, is formally we got a release. We got a release. Informally, hey, what is going on?
Yep.
And then there was like, well, there's a problem with the roof, and they don't really want to do. They don't know what it is, and we're past inspections. Like we can't go look. So I call the
Yeah.
seller and like, hey, here's what they're saying. He's like, oh, that roof's got a lifetime transferable warranty. Hang on. Makes a call.
Yep.
It's free to everybody. Free to everybody to get that fixed. So that's where that whole thing comes in. You can put what you want in that contract. Understand there is an informal world of negotiation still possibly going on for both parties. And that's okay. This is how we get to the closing table. This is how we try to get you there with as few scars as possible, as many dollars as possible, is through these types of mechanisms. But regardless of how you approach this, when people want to buy your house, there are a handful of systems in your house that if you have them, one, I promise you they're going to come up. And two, if they come up and they're the ones that bring it up, meaning the buyers instead of you, they will be more expensive. They will be more painful. And I don't have this list like out there in the world, but I've talked about it before. But if you've got a furnace, first of all, you should know what's going on. You should just know what's going on. Before you put it on the market, get somebody out there, have them service it for $70 or whatever they charge, and just ask them that everything's okay, assuming everything's okay. And if it isn't, ask for a quote. Right? You don't have to pay to fix it, but you do have to tell the next buyer because they're going to find it. And then you're going to be caught deer in the headlights, chimneys, roofs, pools, hot tubs, saunas. I'm seeing a lot of these saunas showing up. Did you know that home saunas were a thing?
Yeah, Andy's parents bought one a few years ago. It's pretty cool.
Really?
It's just like sits in the corner of their house. It fits like 2 people. It's neat. But yeah, they sell them at Costco now, so they'll be everywhere.
What do you do with these things? You just go sit in
You
it?
sit in them. Well, it's a sauna. You sit in it. You sit in it, you sweat out all the bad stuff, and then you leave.
Could I do that at the beach, for example?
Okay, so everyone that lives in Ohio has a Lake Erie beach. Like,
Fair enough. No, that's fair. You're
listen.
right. Water heater. I think you should have your electrical looked at, but that's up to you. Skylights. Oh my gosh. The amount of pain
Yeah.
we've seen over skylights. They're smoky, they're filmy, they're this, they're maybe leaking, who knows, whatever. But what I would do is put it all in your marketing. Put all of that stuff in your marketing. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And buyers are going to look at that and go, whoa, like this house is almost certified. They've removed all the big, scary questions, which means more buyers will come to the table, bidding more, buyer feeding frenzy. Everybody wins, and then you get to sail off into the sunset with your big bag of money.
Because you're now the most trusted house in your market area because you've done all the prep work. It's like the people that, well, at my house, actually, she had a folder of, that's how I knew the windows were already 20 years old. And that's how I knew when the tub was last installed. And she had a folder of everything. They kept all the invoices and the receipts. And it gave us a lot of trust. It gave us enough trust that in checking everything out with our own eyes to move forward without an inspection. So sometimes, to Glen's point, you do all this pre-work and you will get multiple offers, but she did. And you will get buyers who like inherently trust the house more, so they might even waive the inspections. If
Or
that's what
you can now legitimately ask for it because you've done all of this. They can see it all. They can call these contractors up if they want.
Yep.
But most won't. They're going to be like, wow, this looks amazing. You're going to increase your buyer pool and increase the trust and make your offer that much better. because it's not just about getting the top dollar in the offer. It's about getting the best terms from the strongest buyer, and those terms have to last all the way to closing. That's why I'm asking you to do all this stuff. But to bring it home, when you are sitting out here, I don't care what pre-work you have done or have not done, when you see something that smells like no inspection, smells like no remedy, make sure it's real. Get all that stuff crossed off if they're going to go that route, and then don't let them back in. Keep the mystery high. Come on, they're frothing. They want in that house. Great. They're going to be that much more motivated to do whatever they have to do to get to the closing table, get the keys, so they can do whatever they want in there. But under no circumstances, don't go into the deal thinking because it was written somewhere that they won't ask for anything, that they won't. Because either you take it out of the contract or you don't. There is no middle ground, in my opinion.
My hot take to end this episode is that inspections can be good because sometimes buyers are shocked by how little there is wrong and they literally just sign off and say, all right, sounds good. Or what's more is 90% of sellers, in my experience, are willing to give a little bit more than they think they will, because just like the buyer is excited to have the house under contract, so is the seller. So after 7 days when the inspections happen, if the buyer comes back to you and says, man, we really want to make this work, but we need that $2,000 in credit to make these repairs, that $2,000 might seem okay to you. So cutting off all avenues of inspection to me, because this is an emotional process and your logic in your mind is going to change a lot. And depending on what's wrong, if it's something you'd have to pay $2,000 to fix and repair and disclose to go back on the market anyways, you might be more than willing to be like, you know what, buyer, I want to keep you. I want to keep this train moving. I'll just do it because it would cost me exactly the same. If a buyer wants to ask for inspections and you know that you have some wiggle room based on their offer, I say let it happen because it might not be as bad as your worst fears. And if it's bad, just go back on the market. I mean, like if it's really bad, we have a rebound playbook for that. We have all kinds of processes for that. There's episodes and you can search thetalkingrealty.com for all that stuff. But for the most part, it's shocking even to Glenn and I sometimes how adamant a seller could be, like the one that we used in this example today in this episode, how adamant they can be about as is. But when the repair request comes back, it's actually not that big of a deal to them. And it's to them, the trade-off is worth not going back on the market. So you don't know until you know. So I wouldn't just throw out all inspection offers in favor of a no remedy offer. And I think that's maybe the biggest point is if you have a no remedy up against an inspection, but the no remedy is a lower price, but the inspection one is a higher price, you have to weigh that because that no remedy could still come back and ask for more afterwards. And that's kind of the point we're making. So maybe take the higher price with the inspection and then play that card because now you officially have that wiggle room because you were willing to take the lower price anyways. But you do have to be really mindful about how it's written and your expectations going in.
Yeah, just don't fall for it. That's kind of, I think, another big part of where we're going today is what's frustrating is when sellers accept these deals and then assume that that's what it means. And that's really why I wanted to have this conversation because in this case, they're full service and I won't reveal everything about the seller, but trust me when I tell you the seller knows how to read a contract. So the fact that they were shocked and upset that the buyer asked for anything was frustrating. And that's what led to the rant. Well, fantastic. I feel better. I'm going to have a better day now that I've got all this off my chest. So thank you for that. I think with that, we will let everybody get back to their day. All right?
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. You have a great day, Taysia. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you learned a little something or maybe had a little bit of fun. The Talking Realty podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Property Group, a family-owned company where we sell homes for a low, flat fee. If you've got a question, you've got a guest or a topic that you'd like to see in a future episode, I would love to hear from you. Just head to talkingrealty.com and say hello. Until next time, keep making smart moves in your real estate journey. For the Ohio Property Group, this is Glenn Whitten signing off. And remember, you can sell it. We can help.